What's your reaction or response to not playing down the stretch? That's a difficult or different look for you.
I mean, that's Billy's decision. He got to lay with it, you know. Do I agree with it? No. You know, I think I can go out there and still be me even if I miss some shots. But that's his decision, and, you know, he has to stand on it.
Now, if you've been following the channel for a while now, you guys already knew my stance on Zach Lavine and whether the Bulls should have offered him a max contract or not. I acknowledge that the Bulls were really put in a position where they virtually had to offer him the max rather than losing him for nothing, as losing that available cap space for which they would have been able to operate over the cap by using Zach Lavine's salary and his birds rights again to operate over the cap. But you guys also know I had serious concerns as to whether paying Zach Lavine a max contract was going to set them back and hamstring them for the future. For yes, a star player in his prime, but not a superstar level player. Need we be reminded of all star players in the past who were given max contracts which teams later on regretted and put them in a perpetual state of mediocrity. I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Zach, because while I know some Bulls fans are quick to jump all over him right now saying he wasn't worth the money, he's overrated, he can't do anything if he isn't shooting well, we need to trade him ASAP. It is way too early to be making those kinds of claims that the Bulls made a mistake in giving him a max contract. Time will tell with that one. So I'm not going to talk about that in today's video, but rather the comments that you heard from Zach after the game when speaking to the media on how he felt about getting benched at the end of the game against the Orlando Magic. And I wanted to share my thoughts on it because I actually was very surprised in the manner of how he handled this. And I won't lie, it does have me being a little concerned for the future of Zach Lavine being locked into a contract for the next 5 years. But first, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video. But before I get into that, a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Established Titles. So I had this company reach out to me and ask if I wanted to own land in Scotland, which I thought was a little odd. Why would I want to own land in Scotland? Well, Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. It is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. And what you're looking at here is a title of land that I currently own in Scotland. Yes, I am now a landowner in Scotland, a lord, if you will. Title packs give you at least 1 square footage of dedicated land on a private estate. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of the land. Now, what's cool about this company and what they're doing is that they plant a tree with every order made and work with global charities, One Tree Planet and Trees for the Future, to support global reforestation efforts. It makes for a great last minute gift. They even have couple packs that come next to my plot within a few miles of walking distance, depending on how many of you want to become a lord or lady. We can build our little Bulls Central kingdom. Get this, you can even add lord to your dating profile. Established Titles is actually running a Black Friday sale, plus if you use the code BULLS, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/bulls to get your gifts now and help support the channel. And I will leave all that information down in the description. Now, you saw from the initial clip at the start of the video, Lavine expressing his frustration and disagreement with Billy Donovan's decision to take him out of the lineup around 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't even just that. Zach actually sat out from about halfway through the third quarter all the way to about halfway through the fourth. He only played 25 minutes in total in that game against the Magic, citing that's Billy's decision. He's got to lay with it. Do I agree with it? No. I still think I could go out there and still beat me even if I miss shots, but that's his decision. He has to stand on it. He then went on to add, you play a guy like me down the stretch, that's what I do. Pretty strong words from Zach, which to an extent, you get it. The Bulls just had a terrible loss in which they came back being down 19, all but secured a win and blew it in the final seconds. And for a guy like Zach Lavine, who for all intents and purposes is the franchise player of this team and wasn't able to be out there on the floor to help close it out, yeah, that's frustrating for him. For Billy's part, he defended his position on benching Lavine, that he felt that he did what was best for the team to win in that moment. And with Lavine having a really bad game, arguably the worst game of his career, at least shooting wise, Donovan felt going with other guys was the right way to go. And you know what? He's right, meaning Billy Donovan. Look, you guys know, at least most recently, I am not one to defend Billy Donovan. I've said it many times on the channel. that I was never that excited about the hire to begin with. I thought there were plenty of other available options at that time that were better. I've said time and again, I questioned his rotations pretty frequently. It's not like he just has a head scratcher decision here and there. I feel like this is almost starting to become an every game basis at this point in terms of his just general decision making rotations. I feel he's poor at making in-game adjustments. I think he caters and relies too much on his stars to do whatever they want to do and take over the game rather than developing an actual offensive system that is going to work for the collective unit. But in this instance, Billy deciding late in game to sit Zach Lavine, that was the right call, and I actually commend Billy for one, actually making adjustments in that game by not just playing your star player because they're your star players and have earned the right to do so, which Zach actually said at practice yesterday that he felt he earned the right to be at the end of the games, even despite his poor performance, which I'll talk about. He also made the adjustment to close out the game with Javonte Green, or I guess I should say play him in general, which I don't know why he benched him in the first place and didn't play him at all in the first half. And also just the fact that Billy stuck to his guns and stood by his decision even days later. Like, if you caught my video a few days ago talking about why the Bulls should fire Billy Donovan, but that they won't, I mentioned one of the biggest challenges I have with Billy Donovan is not just what he's done with the Bulls, but it's also his history dating back all the way to Oklahoma City, where he kind of just let star players do whatever they want and never got in their ear when they were making mistakes. You saw that with Kevin Durant in that first season of his tenure when the Thunder blew a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals. You saw it with Westbrook, where he was just stat padding and averaging triple doubles because it was cool and unique, but the team was still bad. And same with Paul George later on when he came to Oklahoma City. Billy Donovan is a player's coach. We all know that. It is a strength of his because he's been able to develop strong relationships with his players, unlike, as Big Dave refers to him as, the bald-headed menace. And Billy Donovan is great when it comes to player development, but sometimes being too much of a player's coach can cost you when the players start taking advantage of you and you don't know how to call them out when they need it most. That's what Billy did here. And it's the first time I've seen him do it. Look, I don't care if Zach thinks he's earned that right to be playing at the end of a close game. I don't care if he thinks, well, if I'm having a bad game, I can still turn it around and start being me again and score in a hurry. I don't care that Lavine is a better free throw shooter than Vucevic and could have knocked down those free throws to help seal the game. Although we say that, but Vucevic is actually shooting better from the line so far this season, even after those 2 missed free throws. But all of that, it doesn't matter. It wasn't Zach's night, and it seems like everybody but him could see that. The guy was in his head. He was trying desperately to make things happen to get him going on offense, and it was hurting the team. When Zach got pulled halfway through the third quarter, the Bulls were down 16. When he was brought back, I think it was around the 8-minute mark left in the fourth quarter, the Bulls had cut the lead to 4, and were rolling. I was actually shocked that Donovan brought him back. I figured with the way the Bulls were balling without him, he was just going to say, hey, you know what? This isn't on you. I know you're better than this, but I've got to roll with these guys because they're getting us back into this game, and we need this win. And what does Zach do after being brought back? Misses a jump shot on his first possession, being in. That, while the crowd was in it and the Bulls were going on a run. The Magic score on the other end. Zach comes back, takes a horrible contested 3 that clanks on the front of the iron. Then the ensuing possession, he turns the ball over on a bad pass. The Bulls were on a huge run, and Lavine's play alone put a halt to that. That's why you were taken out of this game. It has nothing to do with your skill and abilities and overall greatness as a player. The Bulls needed a win. This was a must-win game, knowing you were playing one of the worst teams in the league at home and knowing you've got a tough schedule ahead. And the best way to get the win was to take Zach out of the game. It just wasn't his night. Look, this isn't me saying Zach Lavine is horrible, he's overrated, we should trade him now, we should blow up this whole team, like I see a lot of Bulls fans saying. No, Zach is still one of our better players. He is one of our best players. He is an all-star level player, and we know Zach is better than this. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't be held accountable for having a terrible game, but more importantly, being self-aware of the fact that you had a bad game and probably should have been benched for it, regardless of the fact that you're a star player, regardless of the fact that you're a max level player, regardless of the fact that you've earned that spot to be there. And for Zach Lavine, you have to take that in stride. Know you played poorly and come out hungry and dominate the next game, which I know he said that, by the way, that he did play poorly. It's not like he's saying that he played well. And look, even if you have a problem with the decision from the coach, even if you disagree with it, don't come out and say that to the media. just be vague. Say you're going to talk about it with Billy. The last thing you want to do is create any sort of disunity or tension by saying to the media, and not to Billy Donovan himself first, that he's going to have to lay with it and stand by that decision. Talk to Billy directly. Don't talk about it with the media. I know they talked about it and resolved the issue. Billy gets why he's frustrated. Zach understands why he went with different guys, even though he did double down saying he earned his right to play through a bad game. So I'm glad they resolved that somewhat bad press that could have led to more issues down the line. But I guess the reason I'm surprised by all this is because I would have expected a little more humility from Zach Lavine. He struck me as the type of player who, yes, has a lot of confidence, but would have been a little more understanding and accepting that, yeah, I play like crap and I deserve to be benched for it. The guys on the court were playing better. They completely turned the game around. And when I was brought back, we struggled. And we need to do what's best for the team in getting a win. And my hope is that Zach getting this max contract hasn't given him this superstar ego that he's earned and deserved playing in crunch time. Yes, most of the time you will, but not when you go 1 for 14 and your play is detrimental to the team in that game. Anyway, hopefully these guys can bounce back after that debacle of a game, which honestly, that poor game was not just on Zach. A lot of guys deserve heat for how they showed up. And even though I applaud Billy for benching Lavine when he was having a bad game, his coaching throughout that game was still very questionable given the fact that the Bulls found themselves in a hole early on, which is something the team still continues to struggle with, and also obviously just benching Javonte Green throughout the first half. But a strong bounce back is going to be tough though. Bulls take on the two best teams in the Eastern Conference starting tonight against the Celtics and then the Bucks on Wednesday. Let me know how you guys think those two games are going to go, as well as your thoughts on Lavine's comments regarding Billy's decision to bench him. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.